Many people just enjoy their journaling practice. For some, it's a kind of legacy. For others, it's useful for reflection, mindfulness, and good mental health. For me, it's a combination of all these things, but I find it particularly powerful as a productivity tool. I'm going to show you my process and how this works for me. First off is morning pages. You probably know all about morning pages by now, but if not, there's a link to one of my videos in the description. Every day I get up about 6 to 6:30, I go downstairs, give the dog his dinner, then I sit down to write my morning pages. I honestly think morning pages underpin everything. They're like an all-encompassing splurge from the mind. Everything surfaces in there, work stuff, private stuff, insights, creative ideas, the lot. They take me about half an hour. So then with my morning pages written, it's time to take the dog for a walk. When I get back, it's breakfast. So while I'm eating my breakfast, I read a few pages of something, and then I'll take a look at my bullet journal. So in my bullet journal, I'll set out my 3 main tasks for the day. It's taken me a long time of journaling and insight and reflection to learn not to overload myself. And sometimes I still do. I think a lot of people do that. So what I do is I write down the 3 tasks, and then I write review and TT. And we'll come back to that in a minute. Then it's off to the studio. Throughout the day while I'm working, I do what's called interstitial journaling. That's brief entries about what I'm doing at certain different times when I think about it throughout the day. Say I've sent a significant email, then I might make a note of that. Or maybe I've been distracted or worked on something spontaneously. Then I'll write this down with the time in the bullet journal. I find this really useful. It's a bit like the rapid login that Ryder Carroll talks about in the bullet journal method. Now you can see something about this in another video I made about how to quit social media and possibly replacing it with interstitial journaling. So I'll leave a link in the description to that too. But I find this stuff really works well for me, and it helps with the review at the end of the day. See, I told you we'd come back to it. I'm sure you won't be surprised to find that the daily review is a review at the end of the day. So I look back across the interstitial entries I've made and write a paragraph or so. So I'll start by saying whether I feel it's been a good day, an okay day, or a bad day. And this is actually interesting in itself to note. I'd say I'm a pretty downbeat kind of person, but mostly I have good days, and I'm very fortunate. And I don't know whether if I wasn't actually taking the time to make a note of this, that I would realise that. But by writing this down, as part of a review at the end of every day, I've come to realise that that's the case. Yes, but what's the TT, Martin? I hear you cry. Well, TT stands for Today's Takeaway, and this is probably my favourite bit. So the takeaway is a single sentence, 2 at the most, that's an observation or specific sentiment that I'd take from the day. And I think I like it because it's spontaneous, and it often surprises me what comes out in the takeaway. So TTs I've written include trust your gut instinct, take it easy sometimes, and I have improved so much. Yay me. The takeaways are useful little nuggets, and I would say the thing with those is not to think too hard. Just write whatever comes to mind. And similar to morning pages, just write what you feel. Be honest. So now it's about 5 p.m. Through the day, I've done my morning pages, my interstitial journaling, and my daily review, as well as my takeaway for the day. So just one last thing, and that's the evening check-in. I made a video about that before, so yeah, there's a link in the description. I do maybe half a side of A5, although the writing's pretty big, so it doesn't take that long. And this really is just a reflection on the day. Sometimes it echoes the daily review, but there is a difference in that while the interstitial journaling and the review are almost solely work-related, the evening check-in will include personal stuff too. At the end, I always write at least 3 things I'm grateful for, and I might ask myself a question about something or ask for some guidance. My dad died suddenly a few years ago, and I sometimes ask him, for example. Now, I'm not a religious person, but aspects of this could easily be compared with praying, I think. I mean, we are just reaching out to the universe, but we're also sort of asking ourselves. We might be asking the universe, asking somebody, but we're just asking ourselves. And I think then the answer can sometimes crop up in our morning pages. So every day what I'm doing is my morning pages, interstitial journaling, a review of the day, today's takeaway, and the evening check-in. I say every day, I don't do this at weekends. What I do at the weekend is a review of the week. On Saturday or Sunday morning, I look back across the daily pages in my bullet journal from the week that's just gone. I pick out what I feel are the most important points and make notes. These are really just bullet points. And often what happens here is that I notice patterns. If I'm repeating myself, saying the same thing over and over again, I reckon I'm sending myself a message and that that's something I should act upon or really consider. Remember, one of my takeaways was to trust my gut instincts? Same kind of thing. A lot of counselling and coaching stuff is based on the fact that we already know the answers to our questions. We just have to find them. I think it's kind of like that too. So in the weekly review, I'll underline or highlight bits that stand out. Then I'll write down the takeaways from each day, because I like those and they're amusing and fun. Sometimes I might embellish things a little bit, but not often and not much. And every so often, I'll go back through the weekly reviews and sometimes I'll add notes. So say I've emailed someone and I made a note of that 6 weeks ago, I might add whether they replied and if they did what they said, that kind of thing. Now you might be sitting there thinking, this all seems like a hell of a lot of journaling, Martin. And I must admit that having written all this down, it does seem like a lot. But I get a lot out of it. For one thing, I just enjoy writing in my notebooks. There's a great sense of calm there that doesn't exist in the digital world. And I'd say if you're interested in this kind of thing, I'd recommend the book How to Calm Your Mind by Chris Bailey. Again, I'll leave a link in the description. But transitioning from screen to page is like night and day for me. And I honestly see huge value in what these practices do for me. You know, I'm expressing and recording, exploring, reflecting, gaining insight. It's on the page that we do our thinking. It's on the page that we process our mental soup into something tangible and valuable and useful. And I find all of these different practices feed into one another. I probably gain more insight than even I realise. It's just in my unconscious. Now, you don't have to do all of this. You don't have to do any of this. I'm just telling you what I do. So my advice to you is try different things and see what works for you. And the important thing is there, don't feel tied to a system or practice that you've created. If you're not getting anything out of it, or if you find it a chore or difficult, just try something else. Make up a journaling system that works for you, something that fits your lifestyle. And then you can make use of that journaling and its power as a tool for productivity, creativity, and good mental health. If you've enjoyed this video, why not subscribe and check out one of the others? Look out for posts in the community section and channel memberships coming soon. Bye for now.